Joining us on the program today is Bill Scher, who many in the audience love to hate and some hate to love, I think we would say. Contributor to the Washington Monthly, Politico Magazine, Real Clear Politics, and also host of the history podcast When America Worked. Bill, always good to have you.
Great to talk to you as well.
So let's start maybe with something that will shock the audience. If you had to say, what's your biggest criticism of Biden so far? Where do you stand?
Well, I would say, and look, I've been very annoying about this from the get-go. I think Biden needs to find a way to get the 60 on things, or at least try to get the 60 on things. You can't do everything through budget reconciliation. You're not going to abolish the filibuster with Manchin and Sinema's opposition. Even if you reform the filibuster, that's not eliminating the filibuster. It doesn't mean that everything's just going to glide right through, if that got changed. So on things like, voting rights, immigration, minimum wage, you need to find a path to 60 or it's not going to happen. And so I think you need that breakthrough. You need that. There's so much mistrust. You need a breakthrough moment to create that working relationship. I think the relief bill was the best chance to get that. And I can't begrudge Biden for thinking, hey, I got 50 votes in hand. I can get 1.9 trillion. I can make a massive dent in child poverty. I'm going to act when I can act. I mean, that's not an unreasonable calculation to have made. But I do worry that if it's a missed opportunity to get the 60 on something, is he going to be able to get the 60 on anything?
Right. Well, so on COVID relief, I mean, listen, it's like if you step back, there's a story to tell that's very compelling right now, which is he promised 2,000 and to us that sounded like 2,000 more, but then it became adding 1,400 to the six. And he said right away, but it took 2 months and he said $15 minimum wage and then that's gone. And then you break it down and it's okay. Right away, I mean, how quickly can this actually be done? So maybe expectations should have been different. 2,000 total versus 2,000 more. Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking he meant 2,000 more as well. Counting 600 from 6 months prior is a little bit of a question mark to me. Minimum wage. Listen, the parliamentarian thing, you could overrule the parliamentarian, but then you almost certainly lose at least one Democratic senator if you force it into the bill. So it really wasn't going to pass. And then I'm kind of like, I guess this is okay. I don't know.
Well, look, just taking the bill in and of itself, forget my squeamishness about what comes next.
Yep.
It's a very popular bill.
Right.
The criticism of 1,400 versus 2,000, that's not resonating in the country. The checks were the most popular aspect of the bill in all the polling that I saw.
That's important, which is 2,000 more or 2,000 total is huge in the political space. But when you poll people, they're happy about the 1,400, period.
They're happy with the 1,400. I think they are going to be happy, or at least the parents are going to be happy about the expanded child tax credit when those monthly checks come in. And to get a win off the bat is no small thing. You want to show that you're acting. He was able to act within 50 days. That is a good shot in the arm for any initial president. So I don't think in the short term, it's all good. The question now is, can he find a way to get something else that would show, hey, I can find 10 Republicans who can move us on these other fronts? Because the risk is, I mean, look, Biden right now, you mentioned the minimum wage thing.
Yeah.
There's two things about the minimum wage, $15 minimum wage that are of note. One is that you do not have 50 Democratic senators for 15.
Right.
They do not exist. You lost 8 senators on the Democratic side on that vote. So it goes beyond the parliamentary the rules questions there.
Right.
So some people say, well, Biden betrayed his promise. He didn't betray his promise. You never had 50 Democrats who promised that in the first place.
Undeniable.
So you need to work on those 8, or you need to accept less than 15 and get the 60 some way, somehow. But at the same time, Biden showed he is very reluctant to bend those rules and break those norms. And I think he is, at least in the near term, stuck between these two positions, stuck between I'm going to get done what we need to get done, and I'm not going to let the Republicans veto my agenda, but I'm not going to push hard to change the rules.
Right.
Those two positions don't mesh. Something's got to give. And because if you put a minimum wage bill on the floor, you put a voting rights bill on the floor, you put an immigration bill on the floor, and they all get filibustered, and you don't move one way or the other, then I think you get much bigger frustration, bigger confusion.
Yeah.
I don't get what you're doing, guy. Pick a lane.
Yeah. And for people who are watching and they thought Bill just pulled out a second microphone, that was actually his cat's tail.
Yeah.
So Bloomberg reported yesterday the next big focus is going to be tax reform. Everything that is being reported as being in the bill are things Biden ran on. So there's no shock there in terms of what would be in the bill. The White House restating taxes wouldn't go up for anyone earning under $400,000 a year. That seems to be mostly true, although depending on what's in changes for pass-through business entities, that may or may not actually be the case, but we have to wait and see. What I said earlier in looking at the details of this is that I think you're going to get total Republican opposition to doing anything that could be labeled a tax increase given the pandemic situation, and probably even some Democrats on everything other than raising the corporate tax rate. So while a lot of it is exactly what Biden promised and what the many economists say would be a deficit negative, revenue positive, however you want to do it, I think that politically the next year would be very tough for most of what's in that proposal.
Well, this is the tough thing. When you say Republicans are beyond the pale, there's no way you're going to get 10 on anything. It's a fool's game. It's Lucy and the football. Don't embarrass yourself by trying.
Yep.
Get what you can get done with 50. That only works if you have 50.
Right.
So taxes and spending, you can do through reconciliation. Those are budgetary matters.
Yep.
So the thing that's big up on Biden's agenda coming up is infrastructure. You can do infrastructure by and large through reconciliation, and there's probably going to be a tax component to that. But if you don't have unanimity among your 50 Democrats, not only can you not get it done, it is much more politically embarrassing to not get it done because all the fault is on you. You said you were going to do these things with your party and you can't get your party in line. That's very politically dangerous. So if you don't have that expectation that you need 60 on these things, if the assumption was in the populace, oh yeah, you need 60 on these things, we need to have bipartisan support. Oh, Republicans are the one holding this up. I'm going to punish those guys in November. If the expectation is 50 and then you don't get it done, then you take all the blame. And we know that Manchin, we know that Angus King, we know that some other Democrats are squeamish about more spending without offsets, without revenue, whether that's tax increases or spending cuts, and what those tax increases and spending cuts should be. That's where things get very dicey.
To talk a little bit about the Republican Party, one of the most frequent, I get 10 forms of these questions every week. Is the Republican Party still the party of Trump? Is the 2024 nomination Trump's if he wants it? What happens in 2022 with people that are really only known for being Trumpists like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Madison Cawthorn, etc.? To me, it seems that these things are all sort of interrelated. Trump at his CPAC speech, not announcing 24, but saying donate to me and I'll be the kingmaker and we're going to get the rhinos out. Is 2022 and maybe adjudicating these Trumpian members of Congress in 2022, is that a signal about the future of the party?
Well, yeah, I would assume so. I mean, it seems like Trump is still in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, we can speculate whether he runs in 2024 or not, but he's not taking a breather. He's not just playing golf. He is getting involved in primary battles, encouraging primary battles, putting his thumb on the scale. We'll have to see how many people get nominated or get ousted in Republican primaries because of Trump's involvement. And then we'll see in the general election if being Trumpy helps or hurts in a general election. I mean, we have had examples in the past where Republicans went too far off the deep end and lost winnable seats. There's a great expectation that 2022 will be a good Republican year. I mean,
Right.
midterms don't always go well for the president's party. There's a number of tenuous House seats that are up. And I mean, Republicans have to do some defending on the Senate side. But there's also the redistricting question. Will Republicans draw lines for the House races that will advantage them in 2022? I mean, that's all a little unclear at this point. But there's a certain expectation that this will be a good Republican year. If Trump blows it for them, if there were things that they could have won and Trump's involvement hurts them, that might bring out the voices in the Republican Party saying, hey, this should not be Trump's party. He hurt us in Georgia in 2020, and he's still hurting us now. Or there may be folks that say, who cares? Who cares if we win or lose? This is Trump's party, live or die. And we're going to fight the fight and fight the liberals and the secular media and the socialists. And who wins the elections is secondary to us. We don't know, how much Trump has mutated the DNA of the GOP, where they become immune to caring about electoral considerations.
Right. I mean, you see polling like 64% of Republicans would follow Trump to a new party. 80-something% want Trump to remain involved in politics in some way. It seems as though the electorate is far more positive on Trump than the elected officials are privately, from what the reports are. But it seems the elected officials are still being careful because they don't seem to know what the power of Trump will be in the next election cycle or two.
Yeah, they're afraid. They're afraid for their own seats. And most Republicans who are in office now can only lose their seats through a primary, not through a general. There's not a lot of crossover, split ticket, purple district Republicans at this point. Now, having said that, and I have a theory that's not based on a ton of history because there's only so many examples of this, but I think you got to lose the presidency 3 times in a row before a party can conclude, hey, it's not you, it's me. Democrats lost with Carter, lost with Mondale, lost with Dukakis. Then you get Bill Clinton. Then you get a guy running on welfare reform, a guy who will execute a prisoner with a 70 IQ, a guy who will Sister Soldier Jesse Jackson to his face and say, and have the base voters say, well, what are you gonna do? You gotta attack the middle. We tried it the liberal way, it didn't work. You got to really lose a lot,
right,
for your base voters to say, I'm really sick and tired of losing. And your average Trump diehard is not sick of Donald Trump. They have not lost enough to care. Now, and maybe that my rule of 3 doesn't work with Trump voters. Maybe they'll never care because they're so wedded to him. But I think having the one loss clearly is not sufficient to break that bond.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt about that. And especially when a lot of the Trump people were not really involved in politics anyway. So a lot of those sort of norms may not apply. And many Republicans might rationalize, yeah, we lost one, but Trump wasn't even really like the rest of us anyway. He was sort of this other thing. So there may be a lot of there on both in the Trumpian wing and the non-Trumpian wing. There may be rationalizations for why they won't care.
Well, Lindsey Graham said it pretty openly to Axios that, Trump has a good side and a dark side, but clearly he brings out a certain group of voters that the Republicans need. And so we got to stick with it. But in his heart, Lindsey Graham's not a Trump, not a Trumper, but he's sucking up to him because he thinks that's what the party needs to do. Now, to go back to my other point about Biden and getting to 60, I don't think this is a unanimous feeling amongst all Republicans, especially Senate Republicans. We know there's a class of Senate Republicans that does not care for Trump, whether they are the Mitt Romneys and the Lisa Murkowskis and the Susan Collins, or the folks who are saying see ya, like Rob Portman and Richard Burr and Roy Blunt. They don't want the party to be a Trumpian party. Now, we don't know how far they will go to cause a rift. We know that it's not something that can happen magically or organically because they stayed in lockstep against the rescue plan, against the pandemic relief bill.
Right.
If you were to exploit those divisions, you need to work at it. And now some people might think you're naive, Bill. You can't work hard enough. There's no way to break that bond. And look, that may be the case. I can't mind read these Republicans.
Yeah.
But I do think there is evidence of differentiation between those senators that I would like to see tried. I like to see could you exploit that, widen that rift, make the case to the Romneys and the Portmans saying, look, it's not just good for me, it's good for you. It's good for your party. You don't want your party to be a Trumpian party. You don't want your party to be a nihilistic party. Show that you can work with us and it'll be good for your party long term. Again, I can't predict it's going to work, but I would certainly try it. And I think it will make Biden look good in the trying to occupy a space where he's putting plans on the floor that are popular with the public. And if they get blocked by Republicans, Republicans pay the price.
Yep.
That's the strategy I would like to see more of.
Yeah, I think that it would unquestionably make Joe Biden look good. And that may be why there will be desperation to avoid the breaking of the ranks from the Republican Party. But we will see which force is stronger in the end. I mean, quite frankly, that's what it'll come down to. Bill Scher, contributor to the Washington Monthly, to Politico Magazine, to Real Clear Politics, and also host of the history podcast When America Worked. Bill, it's always great to have you on.
You too. Talk to you soon.